From 94.9 KUOW Seattle, I'm Jeremy Richards. You may have a favorite song you listen to pump yourself up or mellow out or wallow over your latest heartbreak. But Sha'ari Garfinkel says that music actually has a specific effect on your brain. Sha'ari is a music therapist based in Seattle who works with local hospitals and clinics. Sha'ari recommends 3 songs that can give you more insight into how music really affects you. The first song is called Lay Down Your Burden, sung by Susan Osborne.
Oh, lay down your burden. Oh, lay it all down.
This song is really only for somebody who I, as a therapist, get the sense is ready to open up. Because if you play this song for someone who's still pretty defended and, maybe we don't really have our rapport, it's not going to move them, probably. It might, in fact, have the opposite effect. It might make them clamp down or clam up. So this is for when you think, you know what, we've arrived, we've worked together, and we're at this point where it's time to just spill it out. Because people come to therapy because they have something that they are carrying, that they're working on.
What do you know about how the qualities of a song like this would affect the brain?
This particular song, because it's fairly clean, there's not a lot of different tracks going on at once, it automatically takes on more of a sense of intimacy. And then having that one voice, that creates the sense that maybe the person who's listening is the one being directed, spoken to directly. And then there's like a drone, deep chords that are sounding throughout the song. And so that helps to provide a foundation for people. And having that drone creates a certain comfort level. The brain knows what it's listening to and starts to recognize that this is happening over and over. And so that it creates a certain sense of predictability. And that can just trigger the opportunity for people to feel comfortable saying other things.
Are those things you notice intuitively, or do you look at studies on the neurological effects of music?
There is a huge body of study, kind of the field of psychoacoustics. And you could also look in the field of music therapy as well. There's a lot of research, and not all the research agrees, as you can imagine. So when I'm making decisions as a therapist, I'm looking at, well, what does the research, what does my book knowledge tell me? And then there's the other part of it, which is more like you're saying, it's more of an intuitive sense. And if doing this kind of work, you have to be able to have access to both of those.
As a music therapist, Sha'ari Garfinkel uses music from a wide variety of artists. She also creates music specifically for her therapeutic practice. She created this track. It's called Resounding, with musician Dean Moore.
The thing about gongs for me is that it's very primal kind of a sound, very otherworldly. And so the resounding part is kind of like touching an ancient memory of sound or of the celestial spheres. And then resounding, of course, the idea that it can be heard by the listener and continue to have an effect over time. When the brain has access to a broad spectrum of sound across a wide range of frequencies, and it's stimulating a large portion of the brain, it can simulate the type of brain state that Buddhist monks achieve over a period of chanting. So I was working with a therapist. As therapists, we're trained to use speech a lot as a way to explain away a lot of different things or interpret things. And that ability to use speech can sometimes get in your way. It prevents some of the natural processing that a person who wasn't a therapist might do. So working with sound can just be really, really perfect because it bypasses all those executive functions. So this particular woman, she was a few years older than I am, and really starting to come to grips with her sense of self and her sense of being middle-aged and wondering, what am I doing? Where am I going? She had been talking to me about having a sense of herself as being like an oxen attached to a yoke. And during the gong meditation process, it allowed her, through her own imagery and just the magic of the instruments, it wasn't really me, allowed her to set that aside and to begin to envision herself as a different sort of being, not as a beast of burden, but more as someone who had deep within them just a precious jewel that had been kind of covered over by layers of responsibilities of life and job and career and identity, and that she was able to shed that through the shift that occurred in the music.
Sha'ari Garfinkel says that songs don't have to be specifically for music therapy in order to be effective. She also recommends listening to a song by the Avett Brothers. It's called Color Show.
Be loud, let your colors show. Try to keep the madness low. If they hear and it's wrong and they come with torches on, yeah, come on.
This has a little bit of a grunge. There's a lot of screaming. But what comes across for me in this song is that it's all about defiance. It's about letting your own creative voice be heard at the expense of relationships or, criticism or whatever people might say about you. And I think of it as almost like a rallying cry. There's a bit of a call and response to it between the singer and then the other singers. And if you listen to certain recordings of it or see it on YouTube, the audience knows when they're supposed to yell.
I tell them no with my hands, make them understand the plan of it.
And so it's a real bonding and okay, this is who you are, this is who you're going to be. You can go forth and express your voice and don't let anybody stop you. Be proud of it. One of the things I've noticed through my work is that part of depression is a sense of disempowerment, losing faith in one's ability to create one's world or craft it in the way that you want. And most of that is a false belief that's just occurred through different woundings and, just the hard knocks of daily life. But this song completely counteracts that whole thing. It can really get you going and just say, do it, try it, voice it, be it, because that's what's going to keep you sane.
Be loud, let the others know. First a whisper, then it grows. I tell them go, use my hands, make them understand the last of it.
Sha'ari Garfinkel is a Seattle-based music therapist. The 3 songs she recommended were Lay Down Your Burden, sung by Susan Osborne, a track that Sha'ari created with musician Dean Moore called Resounding, and Color Show by the Avett Brothers. To find a link to these songs and a YouTube clip of the Avett Brothers performing that song Color Show live, visit KUOW.org and do a keyword search for music therapy. Heidi Lang helped produce this segment. I'm Jeremy Richards, KUOW 94.9.